know and love getting one of our names wrong at least. Tridd is a new name.
This is you this week, right?
Yeah, it's a nice change up to have me. But anyway, we're going to jump into map 3 at Hanamura and looking at the last time these teams have matched up on this particular map. We're going to have to throw it over to Copenhagen Flames if you're just looking at map results. They've won it 100% of the time, whereas Mosaic, they've only won it once in Contenders so far.
Yeah, the 2 that they lost, though, went to 3 and 4, so it was that second round push where they actually lost out. So you can't take it away from them. They've come ever so close a couple of times, and that could have very easily been a 3-0. So really, I think this map's quite open and for anyone's guess. We've seen a lot of teams running quad tank here. Generally in Overwatch League, we tend to see either full dive or hybrid dive with the Widowmaker. Aside from that, they are the only 3 things we've ever seen. So who knows what kind of crazy stuff we might see get pulled out. Spox might even choose to try and make that Sombra work. Not agree with Jaws, not 100% sure on how that's going to play out for them, you might say. However, I'm sure they've been having a lot of thoughts about how they can best utilize his newly acquired hero, shall we say.
Well, way back when Sombra came out, Hanamura was kind of the first maps we saw her evidenced on. A lot to do with the health pack ult charge times. Now that's obviously been stripped away from Sombra. But I can imagine some teams trying to make some good use out of her on this, just for legacy's sake, shall we say.
It's very usual to see teams on the defense running full dive or counter dive, as you more call it when it's on the defensive side. Stick the Zen and the Ana in the back left corner, or move them around to double doors if you find yourself matched up against the Widowmaker. I'm just not sure if we'll see Spox try and pick something like that, especially when he knows that Naga is on the other side.
Well, Copenhagen Flames, they got to do what they got to do, and that's dive onto the back line. But are they going to be aware that Mosaic eSports could be opting to run that quad tank composition that we love to see? The Slambulance just running straight onto the point and taking what it wants.
I think it works very, very well for Mosaic, especially when you know that Christopher's Ryan is super strong as well. It's his go-to hero. It's what he's famed for. If you play around that and play to his strengths, you can be in a great spot. And we mentioned earlier on, for Shazaria, it far outdid CIS Hopes Unfixed last week. And then you've also got Spox, who, like Kenzie, also from the CIS, has that Roadhog in his back pocket. Now, expecting to sweep round to one side here. That grab immediately is going to really hinder things if they manage to bring him down.
Well, the rocket boost will bring Hager to safety. Immediately gets healed up. They're fighting to get onto the point.
Bizarre.
Naga's already found Kodak, and Tridd is going to shut down Spox's. The quad tank, it's not a Slambulance. It's one of those toy cars you get when you're a toddler.
I really, really like the Flames setup there. They moved Dreedro and Marine Lord from the back left corner and actually put them at the top of stairs because they knew the tanks would not be looking in that direction for the Ana. Suddenly down comes the grenade, everyone's purple, everyone's health bars cannot be replenished, and the quad tank falls apart.
Well, they're going to still keep on this dive and still keep on this quad tank, hoping for a second attempt and maybe just keep grinding it out until the ultimates exist.
They've got to push left or right here. Last time they tried to just storm their way through the center of the courtyard. No team plays quad tank like that. One grab as well.
He's going to get away still. They can't finish off these heroes when they get these picks. It's crucial for the quad tank to get that pick, to establish that dominance. And they're just going to keep fighting. Copenhagen Flames, they know exactly which entrance Mosaic eSports was going to run through. They're going to wait for the Lucio, amp it up, go in as fast as they can. Hopefully someone can pick off one of the stragglers who are left behind as they transition onto the point. Chubbs getting in their face, using that bubble shield to keep himself alive. There's the Primal Rage and the Transcendence coming in from Flames to keep everyone alive. They're trying to push him off the edge. There's the self-destruct behind the point. Here's a Nano Blade from Naga, finds Christopher onto Mano. He will get stunned at the moment, but he's looking for one more. Kodak takes a dive, and so will Danny.
Flames have 100% prepared for this because they've played these last 2 things methodically. They have read Mosaic like a book. They know 100% what is coming. The worst thing is about playing quad tank and you lose fights out like this, you are giving so much ultimate charge over to the other side. For Flames now, they've got the Pulse on side. That really is the last thought they're looking at though, as they've burnt everything else in that last fight. So maybe a slight overcommittal, you might say, and Mosaic have now got theirs coming online.
The true test will be coming soon when these ultimates come online for Mosaic. Chubbs already finding Mono, so no speed boost. They might want to try and bide their time in this house. They're going to take the above route and go over the bridge, I think, or just hold out until Mono can get into range. But they're just waiting.
Definitely looking towards Naga when he gets that blade online once again. They're trying to farm it up as quickly as they can because once you get that nano blade, a quad tank likes to sit together, play together, win together, die to the blade together.
Well, they missed the hook. That's not going to come out. They can't get picked when they use it anyway. Singularity going to pull everyone together. Spox is going to just pepper them with that whole hog. Naga and Chubbs already being victims. Fisher clearing out Marine Lord. This was what they were waiting for. The ultimates to come online, and they've still got 3 to play with as they move to point B.
It seems to be a very big problem in Europe where teams do struggle to adapt to deal with this quad tank setup. If you can play the Tracer and the Sombra correctly, you can deal with this in quite a nice way. Just constantly trying to hack out the supports at the back or removing the sharp edge of one of the tanks can be a huge factor in winning out those fights. In this case, though, it took 3.5 minutes of Mosaic to be able to breach through the Flames setup, and I think Flames will be very, very happy with that.
With 5 minutes straight away, they're diving onto the back line. Here comes the Dragon Blade and the Sound Barrier to answer it. Cutting through. He's got the Nano Boost to help him out. Misses the Earth Shatter from Christopher and still will continue to take him out. Poppy Fresh and Marine Lord getting some shutdowns of their own. They're going to demech Danny. They can't get the stall onto him because he's already jumped off the cliff, but Naga still going to be the recipient of the kill.
It gives me a lot of worry, though, because this is what you find at some levels of comp play, is that teams will just keep on rotating ults, and whoever tends to have the Zarya ult wins, and that isn't a nice thing to have to play around. Admittedly, for Mosaic, they appreciate that. They go, right, time to switch things up. They're relying too much on that one-dimensional strategy of ours. Let's go for the more standard second point attack onto Hanamura, where we take the soldier on the high ground. I
wonder where he's going to stand, Des. Is it going to be right above the main entrance on that bridge? Really makes you think. But Copenhagen Flames, they're going to hold that high ground position. You can see Fisher already looking to find behind them. And Naga, they're going to cut him off. He's got great synergy as Chubbs jumps into the fight. They're going to back off to the self-destruct, but now they haven't got it to this point. Poppy Fresh is going to find Spox as a Marine Lord. Gets the dink onto Fisher.
It looked great at the start because Kodak managed to stay alive through all the dive aggression coming out of Flames, but then they still lose their DPS, and without the soldier, well, there's no point trying to push and hold that high ground, so now that has staggered them all the way back, and Mosaic eSports have got to try once again.
But the ult's really struggling to come out from Mosaic. When you completely replace your roster like that, or your heroes, when you go onto a second point, the ult charge, you're going to be at a disadvantage. Copenhagen Flames. Naga nearly got that Dragon Blade again. He's just picked it up. Tridd so close to the Nano Boost. That's a staple combination that Copenhagen Flames have been using. But Marine Lord, again with a dink onto Spox, he's having a lot of fun this game, Des.
I don't think Spox expected Marine Lord to peek those stairs there at risk of being dived on. Naga, rightly so, dives straight back in and brings him down.
They're on the back line, so Poppy Fresh and Naga are just behind the enemy team, and they do nothing about it except fall to their deaths. They know it's over. How can you let them flank like that and get behind onto your supports with such ease? It's
so strange because Flames are playing super aggressive. Marine Lord holding the top of the stairs, Poppy and Naga diving straight into the backline when they're still as 5. Mosaic just aren't really coordinating right now. Why on earth Spox entered into the corridor himself and got picked off by Marine Lord? Complete and utter mispositioning without any tanks to back you up. Should have waited for his team to come back up with him.
But he's getting a damage boost coming out from Mono, who will have that Valkyrie. He'll have Tac Visor soon enough as well, so you've got to be mindful of that as they transition through. Marine Lord with the pick onto Fisher again. He's loving these headshots onto the DPS. A second one from Marine Lord onto Christopher. And now, Mosaic eSports, they're falling apart. This keeps happening time after time as Naga gets the double dash onto the support backline, and Danny is in full retreat.
The analyst mentioned this. For Hollywood, Marine Lord was quite happily dealing with Fisher on his one, and now that he's got some teammates around him, well, he's picking up both of the DPS, even starting to threaten the backline and the supports and even the tanks as well. Really, really well played by him.
Getting ready for another push. 2 minutes on the clock, and the ultimates, they're coming up from Mosaic eSports. You got to kind of raise the question, though, is Mosaic only a team that can get any objectives when they have 6 ultimates in their pocket? You can't rely on that entirely. As Christopher goes on to Marine Lord, he's already being shut down. Here's the primal raid to save his life. Tac Visor being used. Naga, he's just weighing it out, though. He's going to wait for the right time. As soon as that Transcendence goes, as soon as the Tac Visor's done, he's onto the back line, cuts through Spoxes. Now he's left alone. What Kodak going to do? It's not a Kodak moment for him as he gets cut down. Christopher, meanwhile, on the back line, trying to cut through. There's a lot of Mosaic bodies on the point, and they're just trying to stall out, wait for those divers to come back and reinforce. Naga cuts through Fisher. Chubbs with the Primal Rage onto Mono, and they retain control. 0% cap so far. And Mosaic eSports, they're being stalled out. They're not allowing Danny to go and commit suicide and regain. This is a huge stall. They're just blocking him. They've got a sleep dart as well. They can stall this out even longer. Danny running for his life, trying an alternate route, and Heiko finally going to shut him down.
Good lord, that was one brutal stall. Literally body blocking Danny and using the defense matrix, stopping getting any kind of charge back. That is going to deny Mosaic so much time. That might even have lost them a whole push now, as they only have one more chance to go. Gotta say for Flames, really, really well played in terms of how they're stalling things out, because what they did the last time round, let Christopher jump in, popped out the Transcendence on Marine Lord to keep themselves alive, and Naga waited until that Transcendence expired before he dived in the backline. That's when he expected Spox to pop his own ultimate and to start bringing down members of his team. But when you've got a Monkey and a Genji diving on you, there is no time.
The boosted animal dives in, and Micro Missiles find Spoxes, and they're fighting in the courtyard. They're going to back off now. Chubbs half HP, not getting the healing he needs. Mono's going to bring Spoxes back into the fray. They needed that to happen. 25 seconds remaining.
What a purple.
Huge bionic grenade to shut down all the healing, but Chubbs gets taken out of the sky by Danny and Kodak. And now they're looking for that high ground. Christopher onto Naga. DPS options being shutting down. This is the push Mosaic needs. Can they do it on the last hurdle? Heiko going onto the back line. Poppy Fresh is just on top of Spox' uncontested, forcing a reposition. Will's getting down. Transcendence to meet him as he lands. Poppy Fresh with that pulse bomb. As soon as that Transcendence goes, he's looking for one of the supports. Waiting for it. He's onto Kodak. Here's the Dragon Blade coming into the fight. Heiko finds Kodak. Danny onto Tridd. There's a Valkyrie coming out from Mono. Keeps him high in the sky. Primal Rage will help shut him down. Mosaic eSports, they've turned it around. They did it exactly when they needed to. Pulse bomb from Poppy Fresh goes to no one. Chubbs shuts down Spox. It's all about the stall from Copenhagen Flames at the moment. Self-destruct onto the point, clears it all out. Marine Lord onto the Sombra. They're trying to stall as best they can, translocate back onto the fight. They're struggling to get any ground on this one at the moment. 3 members on the point, 1 to the stall. Pulse bomb on the floor. Chubbs finds Christopher. Mono switching over to the Lucio. Chubbs finds Fisher. They're starting to turn it back around. Marine Lord, Naga, they're picking up kills, and Copenhagen Flames shut Mosaic eSports down with 1 point to their name.
That is how you counter a stall, because it feels really sucky when you find yourself at the spot where you've held for 5.5 minutes and then suddenly you lose on the final fight. But they've played it quite sensibly. They just kept the Tracer hanging around to stall it on the point for enough time, and then as the respawns came through, pushed back in as a collective unit rather than feeding back in one by one. So again, more planned, smart play from Flames. I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of these guys today. Maybe a little bit less on Hollywood, you might say, because it wasn't the most proficient attacking round for them. But otherwise, what I've seen in the first map and the third map has been nothing short of excellent.
Copenhagen Flames as well. When they've played Hanamura, 2 out of their 3 games so far have ended with a 2-1 scoreline in their favor. This is exactly what they are used to. 1 point on the enemy team and a full completion for themselves. So what they choose to run on this offensive lineup will be very telling of how they treat this map. I don't think they're going to run for that full dive again. We've seen Naga have great performances on Farah, especially on these capture point orientated point A maps. That includes things like Hollywood. When you're on the offense, we've seen him run the Farah on Hollywood as well on that point A when it's a capture point. So Copenhagen Flames, wouldn't be surprised they stick with that. Mosaic eSports going to try something different now that the Torbjorn, we've seen that before on Hanamura point A.
We have seen it, especially on the bridge, basically right above now, where you can see it on screen. That's where we've seen it go down a couple of times previously. Was very, very good at dealing with quad tank. A little bit concerned about how it will deal with anything else, mind you. Now, for Flames, we've spoken about Poppy already. The guy is basically a Tracer one-trick at this point. You tend to see most Tracer players will also play Widowmaker. That pleasure goes over to Naga on this team, mind you. So I don't expect them to try and run for a quad tank even. You maybe look towards a triple tank, and even then a Tracer isn't really the go-to DPS to play with that kind of setup. Who knows, maybe they try to go for it, but right now what they're sticking with is this current setup.
Spox is attempting his hand at the Widowmaker yet again. Fisher on the Junkrat, and Christopher going to bring out his Orisa, which we don't see often on this lineup. But a triple tank composition coming for Copenhagen Flames
with the
Poppy
Tracer
on that Tracer.
Yeah, it looks like they really don't want to. They want to try and get as close to the quad tank as they can because they know how well it is working for a lot of other teams. Again, I'm not 100% sold on Poppy playing the Tracer. Maybe if he gets into the left here and sweeps around back onto point, they're getting themselves into a good spot. He's going straight for the point, though.
Yeah, speed boosting through Chubbs is stuck in the trap, and the turret is getting free reign as they're transitioning to the point. But Christopher already gone down. They can deny that resurrection from Mono. This could be big for Copenhagen Flames. The turret is now useless. They can just play around the cover of the point, trying to get that pick. Christopher back up. Mono did get that resurrection in as Dredro shuts down Danny. They're fighting for their lives to get onto the point as Naga going to take a sippy quickly, get himself back up to full HP. Marine Lord with the coalescence onto Christopher. Finds it with Fisher as well. Kodak jumps into the fray, gets Naga, but Chubbs and Heiko shut the rest of the fight down. Clean take from Copenhagen Flames.
Mosaic should never, ever, ever have let Poppy charge across the yard, come behind the supports and start harassing them. They had no heals once the supports got forced back into house. I understand they were trying to hold the kind of courtyard to prevent any kind of deep dive coming in, but Flames were not running dive. The intel wasn't there. They didn't respond accordingly to Poppy's Tracer, and well, it completely shut them down on that first point.
7 minutes to play with on point B for Copenhagen Flames, and they just need to get one capture. Not even that, 85%. See Spox is taking pop shots from the high ground. He's got some reinforcement from Fisher. That's the safety net. He's going to lie around. Kodak getting a bonk kill onto Marine Lord with the hammer. That's interesting. And he finds Chubbs as well, so he's not even using his turret right now. He's just straight going up into them with the fire. Naga, whole hog onto Fisher. Chubbs with the flame strike for the D-Mex. Fox is finding Dreedro. Kodak again. Like I said, just don't use his turret. Just run around with Torbil. You know what you're doing on this one, my friend.
Knows how to use it, but I think it's time to switch over here as you will need that second support. And there it is, the Zen coming through. Probably to give themselves more of this defensive dive that we see coming through, the counter dive, as it were. Fisher, I'm very curious to see if he chooses to stay on the Junkrat after he's burnt this ultimate. It's the only reason he hasn't changed off so far, because they know they were running this triple dive. However, equally, Flames have now traded off. They've gone for the more standard comp that we also saw Mosaic running on their second round offense.
Naga picking up the Soldier. Classic on Hanamura, point B. Going to use that high ground. Where Mosaic eSports faltered was allowing the divers to get onto their backline. Fisher, with that Riptide, should stagnate the fight. He finds a double. No supports available for Copenhagen Flames. That's a write-off straight away for Flames.
Far too easy. That's what you have that Junkrat tire for. I imagine now he goes back to Spawn Room and goes to the reset. He is on his merry way. Probably going to switch out, I imagine, to something along the lines of the Tracer. There we go.
Good call. It's nice to know you know your stuff, Des.
Sometimes.
Well, they're going to do exactly, their plan is to do exactly what Copenhagen Flames did to them. They're going to force the top right entrance. They're going to keep trying to find that entryway onto the back line, create some harassment, take down a support, and shut the push down. Mono, sitting on a nano boost, ready to go. Might give that over to Christopher unless Spoxes can generate his blade fast enough.
Like to see Poppy holding the high ground here at the top of these stairs and just blinking across whatever needs be, down to join Spox and go for the aggression.
Well, Poppyfresh is onto the back line. He doesn't care there's a dive happening on his side. He takes out Kodak straight away, no problem. Danny answers onto Marine Lord, so the nano boost went onto the Diva, and now that Poppyfresh has forced the rest of them to jump off that high ground position, Copenhagen Flames, they try and come through, but with Poppy dead, they know they've got to reset.
Nice idea from Poppy. Get into the backline, cause some havoc, can take control of the point, which will then force Mosaic to split between either taking the 5v5 fight or falling back to the point, at which time Flames can charge in and melt them down. They're just waiting for their ultimates to come online at this point. They've got the Pulse Bomb, they've got the ultimate about to come up for Naga, and Dreedro is even going to switch over to the Mercy to go for the pocket.
Gonna go for that damage boost. We know what we can create, a juggernaut out of a Soldier on that high ground with the whole Orb of Harmony and the constant healing from Dreedro. When the damage boost, when attack visor goes, hits it just right, you're going to see some bodies hit the floor.
Will be nice and spicy is one way to put it. They've got 3 ultimates about to come online, so they can go for the push. If they get one opening pick, that'll be the go trigger for them. However, Spox with his own ultimate.
There's a blade from Spox, gets the D-Mech. Poppyfresh finds Mono, so one support down for the side of Mosaic. Poppyfresh by both supports. Finally, Fisher will take him down and end his reign of tyranny. But Naga, he's going to reposition. He's got both his supports still alive. They can create this juggernaut on the high ground. They just need a body on the point. That job is going to be for Chubbs. Pops the primal rage to keep himself alive. And now Naga, with no tack visor, just going to start raining down Fisher, having to recall early. Damage boost, taking out Dani. Here comes Spoxes on the Genji. Rifle butt to the head will shut him down. Transcendence coming in just a little bit too late to save the DPS. Poppyfresh, Heiko, Chubb, all getting on the board with their kills. Christopher's bubble about to go down, diving onto the back line, trying to reinforce himself for Chubb. Just sprays down. We're looking at a shooting gallery. This game is Duck Hunt. This game is pretty much over. They are so stalled and stagnated from Mosaic. They're really going to have to drip feed themselves out here.
They got one potentially chance to come back into this. Poppy has brought down Kodak. He is the support's worst enemy at this point. Flames wiping them out. Fisher the last man left alive. He cannot stall for long enough. In comes Christopher as well.
Well, he's going to die immediately. There's attack visor coming out for Naga. This should be the final nail in the coffin. No one can get onto the point. 85% was all they needed. 85% was what they got. And it's Copenhagen Flames taking the series 2-1.
I would love, after the end of next week, to poll all the supports and European contenders and go, who is your least favourite Tracer to play against? And I guarantee you the name we would see coming up time and time again is Poppy. The number of times he's getting in Zenyatta's faces and bringing them down, and then transitioning across to the other support and bringing them down, the guy's a machine. He is literally melting backlines of teams, and against a team like Mosaic, who's still kind of finding their feet together, you can see exactly what the effect is.
It's not the Group B supports I feel sorry for. It's the Group A supports, knowing what's coming in the top 8 and the top 4. They're going, we're going to have to deal with that. Guys, what we got? Anything? Scrambling for ideas. The supports are literally sweating at the moment, trying to get in there. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring you the final map of this series. Welcome back to Overwatch Contenders Europe. We're in the final map of Copenhagen Flames versus Mosaic eSports, and it's Copenhagen Flames that are 2-1 in the series, so it's far from over because it can definitely force out a tiebreaker.
It absolutely can, and there have been signs of life from Mosaic so far. They look pretty good on Hollywood, of course. Forcing that map out is always going to make you look good, but Flames, when it came to Hanamura, you can see why these guys have never lost that second point. Looking very, very stellar in their defense. And Poppy Fresh, Mosaic need to find an answer to him on this fourth map. Otherwise, this map's decided before it's even began.
Well, we're looking to see what that fourth map will be. I imagine it will be Dorado. Most of the teams are favouring that. We'll get confirmation right now. Dorado is where we're going for the final map of this series. And a lot of hero picks can come out on this map that we know these players love to get their hands on.
We've seen Pharahs, we've seen Widowmakers. Widow's definitely the big one, especially on the first
For you,
point.
anyway.
Mate, Widow's always the big one. Every team, I think every single time we have seen teams play on Dorado, we have seen Widow come out on the first and second points. Basically guaranteed at this point, and then they switch over to Genji on the third point. That's what we've been seeing out of Spox and Naga today. I imagine that trend is going to continue.
Well, like you, I wouldn't be surprised. I hate you for bringing it up every time, but I love you for being right about it.
What can I say? Impactful hero, mate.
Well, what else can we see on this map? Well, we've seen some interesting strategies, haven't we? We've got the pirate ship that came out. We had the double shield.
Beautiful
with
pirate
Bastion.
ship.
Fantastic. I believe it was Angry Titans that only got the run.
I think it was Giganti.
Giganti may have done that. They
Yes,
also
because Davin ran across on the Orisa.
Yes.
And we were like,
that's an interesting pick. And then suddenly they set sails and ride across the rest of Dorado.
Turns out Davin is not a tracer one trick. He can also play Orisa, an off-roll hero. Fantastic.
Deep hero pools. That's what we like to see from that guy. Let's jump into the match at hand, though. So we're expecting to see Widowmakers, see some Genjis as it progresses later on into the stage. What's been kind of the letdown, shall we say, from Mosaic eSports? Because I'm not going to peg it on mechanical play. I'm going to peg it on just cohesiveness. I don't think they're as coordinated as Flames are coming into this series.
It feels like that, and also, quite ironically, we've been speaking a lot about Danny being a very defensive style diva. However, the supports have been left out to dry time and time again. I'd actually like to see him somewhat rescind back in. I understand maybe the coach is saying, so we need to work more on your aggressive style of play. But in these cases, you need to make sure your backline's alive. Otherwise, they cannot support your front line. And guys like Christopher, they get no healing. There's no Discord orb on their target. They fall down, and the whole thing just falls apart before it's even really got a chance to get rolling.
Especially against a tracer like Poppy Fresh
Especially
as well.
Against a tracer like Poppy.
We've been singing his praises because he has been phenomenal this series. And I'm also going to bring it back to Fisher as well. I think Fisher's tracer has definitely stepped up and surprised some people. We weren't really pegging Mosaic to have that option available to them. Fisher's kind of said, yeah, we do have that option. Needs some work, but it's a step in the right direction for them.
It's looking a lot better, actually. I'm warming up to Fisher more and more as Contenders goes on. Because in week 1 and 2, I remember thinking, well, he's getting outclassed by all the guys they're coming up against. Arguably, you'd say in probably a bad team environment because of Mosaic, it was a very rough week 1 and 2. However, things have changed. He's warming up a lot more. He's alongside some more Danish friends of his who he's playing on the same team with. That's where he's going to start to perform a bit better, both from a morale standpoint and, of course, on the field as well.
And what about Chubbs and Heiko? These guys, like I said, they're not star players. They don't pop on the screen, but they're doing the work they need to. They're in coordination, not only with themselves, but their DPS options as well. We saw it on Hanamura defense when they went for the dive. As soon as they were trying to go through that top right choke, you saw it. You had Genji jumping in with a Winston immediately for support and taking down the back line of Mosaic eSports.
Yeah, it's always a big question around tanks, and to be honest with you, we've looked at tanks an awful lot over the last couple of days, especially with the first half of Super Week, as it were. We start speaking about these tank lines and saying, great, you've got these big superstar DPS players, supports are doing their job in the back line. What's going on with the tanks in the middle? And you tend to see the teams that have got the big frontline tanks. I'm looking towards guys like Sharik from CIS Holt, for example. Big players like that, Cloudy from Giganti, another big example. These are the guys you look to really orchestrate the way a team is going to play. Lead the dives in with your DPS, make sure the supports are safe as well. It's a lot to handle, but when you've got a big player like that on your team, it can really work out. Well,
Mosaic eSports, they're opting to put Spoxes back onto that Widowmaker. So you get your wish, Des. Going to have Fisher on the Tracer, so really trying to make a name for himself on that hero. And Christopher, I think much to a lot of people's dismays on the Winston, I think it's necessary for the composition, but it's definitely not the strongest out of his tank roster.
I imagine here the strategy coming in for Flames potentially is they're looking to find a way to deal with Spox, and you say, well, Naga, you've consistently beat him out in 75% of the duels you've had today. We rely on you to deal with that. And what are you going to tell Poppy to do? Get into the back line, melt down those supports, and make sure there is nothing backing up the rest of this team, because as I said, that's where Mosaic seems to be falling apart.
Well, here we go. Final map. It could well be if Copenhagen Flames pull out a win here. Can Mosaic eSports force the tiebreaker Doesn't do well for their playoff hopes, but it does potentially net them a much-needed win that they're sorely missing throughout this season of Contenders.
I was curious to see where they would try and hold out here, Mosaic, but it looks like they're just going to hold straight back into the market and just let this payload roll up the hill and then try and jam it underneath this archway. It's quite a tough spot to push through. You don't really get any super solid angles. Yes, you can hide behind the car. Once it's pushed just through, though, and starts going up the hill, that's when you get into a rough spot because you're very open from a lot of angles.
Without the pressure on Copenhagen Flames, they're able to set up on the high ground. Kodak finally getting revenge on Poppy Fresh, shutting him down before he can play victim. And now they're going to have to wait a little bit longer before they continue this push. And it's stalled exactly where I think Mosaic eSports want it to.
Marine Lord has been the guy getting all the kills onto the Tracers when you're playing the Zenyatta, but in this case, we finally see Kodak get a return trade. Welcome back to the fight, Poppy. We'll see you again in another 20 seconds.
Now he knows exactly where Naga is, but Naga knows not to peek that angle. He's well aware where Spox is as well, so intuitively they're just avoiding each other. But Spox, he wants to get into the fray, takes pop shot a second too early. Naga not fully envisioned yet, and Dezachu is giving him that damage boost from a very safe location to make sure they're getting these picks one way or another. Poison grenade onto it, gets a Tracer in his face, but it's not enough. Danny going very low. There's a D-Mech, so they're exposing the Diva. Heiko, Marino getting kills. Drive-by from Fisher to take out Naga.
Really, really solid defense coming out of them so far. I've got to say I'm quite impressed with how Mosaic are playing this one out. Spox is winning out most of these duels, bringing down the key members. Even Kodak is dealing with Poppy, and we said if they can find a way to deal with Poppy, that is their avenue back into this game.
I like the aggressive positioning coming out from Copenhagen Flames, but they were pushing far forward as their payload was actually going back. So they were trying to entrench some ground into the market area. Finally, payloads play catch-up. Naga takes out Spox's immediate resurrection from Mono. That's the benefit of a Mercy on your team. Mosaic
are here and are ready to push this one. They've just pulled back whilst that ultimate was online for Naga. Now that it's down again, then go for the push. But again, sniper duels will determine how this starts.
Well, you can see there was an attempt there from Heiko to get in the face. Fisher on the back line trying to answer it. Naga feeling on the pressure at the moment, getting that healing coming out. Here's the reinforcements. Fisher finds Naga, Chubbs onto Kodak while this has been going on. But Fisher, he's sitting on that pulse bomb. There's a lot of targets condensed on that payload. Is he going to throw it in, try and get a D-Mech maybe? Here's Transcendence coming in. Poppy Fresh, he wants a piece of that Tracer duel. Christopher actually gets it for himself. Fisher with the pulse bomb onto Chubbs. Now he's being knocked back by Heiko. He's got a self-destruct ready to go, but now he's been D-Mech. Can't use that just yet. Fisher will finish off the cleanup.
This is something I bemoaned Eagle Gaming for a little bit last week, was the whole frontline Tracer. We saw them playing Sombra and Tracer at the same time, and they were basically playing alongside the frontline tanks and trying to deal enough damage onto the enemy tanks. It didn't work out too well, however, Copenhagen Flames probably now realizing that this is a little bit aggressive, shall we say. Let's try and dial it back a little bit. Fisher is equally doing the same, but he's got to hold down the point, so it's generally okay for the more defensive Tracer to be the one forcing that angle.
You're talking about Copenhagen Flames dialing it back there. As Naga goes ahead and locks in Genji, already looking for the backline flank. They're going to go for the full dive on this one. I don't think he could get the angles on Widowmaker that he wanted to do, so he's going to be on the backline instead. Spots is onto Marine Lord. There's a self-destruct to dislodge from that position. Chubbs going in close. Can he get away? He's been pocketed by Mercy. Kodak's there as well for good measure. They're going to jump in Discord Orb onto that Monkey. Poppy Fresh, Chubbs, Heiko, they've taken out the back line, and Fisher. This looks like Copenhagen Flames are going to extend Dorado a little bit longer.
Much better, so they kept the Mercy and the Widow completely out of the fight there, essentially forced it into a 5 versus 4, and when that 5 versus 4 was going their way, they commit the Winston in to go and help the Genji dealing with the Widow. Once that goes down, well, not much left to say, no more res is available, tanks have melted, everything goes their way. So it took quite a while for Flames to get to this point, maybe a bit too dangerously close you might say, but now Mosaic are forced to hold out on the second point.
Poppy Fresh is the only one with an ultimate, and Fisher likewise on the side of Mosaic eSports, so pulse bombs galore going to be thrown out. High ground position being held, Naga being very sneaky as a ninja, climbing around to the side in the face of Christopher, going to have to back off Chubbs. Heiko, they're coming up for reinforcement, the tank line's distracted, but the back line couldn't be dealt with by just Heiko alone. So Marine Lord and Dezachu playing safe on the payload. Here comes Christopher, the dive of their own from Mosaic, and he finds Marine Lord, looking for more. Fisher with the pulse bomb onto Dezachu, Poppy Fresh answers onto Kodak. As Fisher, looking for more, gets the D-Mech. And now he's got to deal with Chubbs, but there's a shield behind him. Naga's in his face. Recall might not save him here. 69 HP. It's going down, but it's going straight back up because of Mono. Heiko without that mech, not as damaging as you'd like to think, and Copenhagen Flames have been muted.
Chubbs got hard baited there into popping his ultimate because he was basically stood downstairs for like 4 seconds with the ult like, well, I've wasted an ult here, guys. And they tried to force the counter-engage. It was already a bit too late by then because Christopher had managed to pick off 1 kill on the other side. So understandably, they will lose this fight out and be forced back a little bit further. Mosaic really starting to warm up into this map.
Transcendence coming out from Marine Lord. Definitely a forced error there, I think. Self-destruct going into the sky. Grappling hook to try and repel. Kodak, the only victim with Spoxes, turns it around onto Naga. Danny finding Marine Lord. A lot of fighting happening in the church. Fisher with that pulse bomb. Looking for the D-Mech, sticks it. Can he time it just right? It's Dreedro instead. Resurrection coming out. Danny with a self-destruct onto Heiko while that happened. And Fisher yet again on the Tracer, showing up and questioning the doubters.
Much better from Mosaic. Gotta say, the support's at least getting some backing there on the high ground, away from that Tracer, away from Poppy Fresh. We literally said in the map 3, if they deal with Poppy Fresh, they will have a much better time. With 1 minute on the clock, you could definitely say they're having a much better time here, Tridd.
Absolutely. Out the front side of the church, about halfway through the second phase of this map, Copenhagen Flames, they need to find the chink in that armor, break through it, and smash the door wide open. Spox is holding that long angle on the Widowmaker. Relatively uncontested, not for lack of trying from Copenhagen Flames. Naga's got a Dragon Blade. That should add a little bit more depth to his attack. Spox is taking out Poppy Fresh. They're missing a prong of the fork as Fisher takes out Chubbs as well. They're losing all the components of the dive, and they're going to have to reset with 25 seconds remaining.
Sort of smart from Naga, sort of not there. They need to get into this backline somehow, but he's just really struggling to commit past the tanks, I think. He's fully aware that if he goes for the dash beyond it, pops the blade, you're going to have tanks flying straight back at your face. And Christopher, got to give it to him as well. We called into question his Winston a couple of times in previous weeks, playing it very aggressively here, sitting far forward, and then jumping back away when his life's under threat.
There you go, pulse bomb available on board with Fisher yet again. Going about half HP. There's the sound barrier being popped from Tridd to keep him alive. They've still not taken down Spoxes, so that Widowmaker's going to pop up somewhere. Self-destruct finding no one. Naga with the blade, going for the tank line instead of the back line. Poppy Fresh taking down Fisher. That's one of the first times it's happened this map. Fisher and Christopher both going down without using their ultimates. That's going to be huge for the Flames. They still out the overtime, but of course they're going to have it because there's still a distance to travel to get that phase free. Spoxes gets Poppy Fresh, so he's back on the map and he's popping heads. Heiko with the D-Mech. The deflection coming out from Naga. Kodak will go down. Takes a tag from Spoxes, but they're keeping the payload in motion in overtime.
Bit of a caster curse there, compliment Christopher. Doesn't pop his ult before he gets hit by the third slash of the Dragon Blade, falls down. That fight would have gone very, very differently if they still had both of their tanks in the middle of that fight. They didn't, and now they're forced into a final point defense.
Kodak changing out for that Sombra. He's got, the Sombra, the Moira, pulse bomb on Fisher. Finding someone, Chubbs will get taken down. Naga finds Mono. Spoxes takes out Naga. DPS options, they're being disarrayed at the moment. Self-destruct on the point to give them some breathing room. Christopher dives straight into it. He managed to get the primal rage this time out. Probably fresh on the Danny. Spoxes being answered. Heiko turning his back to him. Probably the block and get some damage. It doesn't matter though. Flames are quickly ending phase 2.
Just goes to show how much small mistakes can cost you. Christopher being a bit too conservative with the ultimate in that penultimate fight really cost them by not being able to stall up for longer and not being able to root down any more kills. Flames, on to the third point. We usually say this is the hardest point to attack, but the second one was definitely a struggle for Flames. And now Mosaic have got to try and do it all over again. Spock switching over to the Sombra this time. They're going for that double flanking setup. Lots
of angles to kind of get behind the enemy team with that translocator. They're fighting with the tanks yet again. Here comes the sound barrier, the self-destruct layered in front of them as well. Chubbs going to be fighting with Christopher. There's a hack onto him. He's grounded. That Winston's not flying anywhere. No shield for him as Danny will mow him down with that mech. And they're forcing Copenhagen Flames out of the point with 45 seconds remaining.
Much better stuff then. Flames being forced all the way back. They've got one more chance to go at this one. The ultimates that are online for, and they've got 3. Almost 4, maybe 5. You consider Heiko's isn't too far away either. They've got to make it work in one go. I don't see them completing this map, but at the very least, I see them winning the next fight.
They've got a lot of ultimates in their pockets. Spoxes can shut that down with the EMP, but it won't shut down Naga's blade. Maybe just his mobility options. So let's hope he gets some good lands on here. There's the sound barrier. I believe it's just been, no, it's not been available yet, but you know the Dragon Blade is going to be down. Kodak shuts him down. EMP will surely guarantee this fight for Mosaic eSports as Fisher takes out Chubbs. Fisher again onto Heiko and Dreedro, dancing on the payload with Danny. He's been D-mech'd. That should be easy for them to clean up afterwards. Poppy Fresh gonna kick out Danny outside of it, but there's not enough kills coming out. Pulse bomb. It's a swing and a miss for Copenhagen Flames as Spoxes takes out Dreedro. Doesn't need the hack as Christopher's there for Poppy. Here comes the primal rage onto the point to stall it out longer for Copenhagen Flames, but it's not clean. It's not going to be controlled as Copenhagen Flames throwing bodies at the point to regain control. Mono shutting him down. Sound barrier onto the rest of Mosaic eSports. Pulse bomb in the middle as Fisher finds Heiko. Chubbs, Mono completes fratricide or suicide onto Dreedro as Danny will clear out Marine Lord. And guess what? Mosaic eSports at the beginning of phase 3 will shut down Copenhagen Flames.
Very, very solid defense from Mosaic. Second point good. Again, a couple of mistakes cost them that one. Third time round, though, they made sure they got it right. Spock switching over to the Sombra. Hacks you wouldn't argue weren't super impactful in that fight. Flames were just really struggling to funnel onto the point itself, and all it led them was for Mosaic to be able to charge into the back line, bring down the key members, and just melt the tanks before they had any chance to have an impact in that fight. So some good coordination coming out of them. Again, when Poppy's being kept quiet, Mosaic are in a good spot.
They did a very good job of that in the last round. Kind of muting his offense. You saw a lot of resources put into Spoxes, and it paid them dividends. They were able to get the picks, and he was remained relatively safe for most of the round. Few slip-ups here and there, but it's nothing Mono can't fix with a resurrection. Copenhagen Flames on their defensive options. They're going to run a similar composition. They're running that Widowmaker, that Tracer, the 2 diving tanks will surely come out from them as well. Mosaic eSports, it worked for them on defense. They're going to probably try that on offense as well.
The worry for me here is that Flames have generally done pretty well defending Dorado historically too. Naga, stick him on the high ground, let the payload push through the archway as we saw from last round, and you can go for that full hold. Now, for those guys, I imagine they're actually looking towards us. Let's not forget that they barely managed to tickle their way through that 3rd point. They got the 1st, they got the 2nd. If we see Mosaic copy the same, they get themselves onto that 3rd point, I guarantee you they push it at least a little bit further, and then we find ourselves going to map 5. And we've been speaking all day about Mosaic and saying they need to win today or they are out. Equally for the Flames, they win, they find themselves in a spot where they secure that top 8 spot. It's literally all or nothing for both teams in this final round.
The problem with Mosaic is if they go to that final map, the Oasis map doesn't contribute towards their map wins. Even if they win the series, they're still at a 0-0 map difference. Currently, before this series, -4 on their map difference, whereas you've got Young and Beautiful currently at -2. Young and Beautiful can show up and completely shut down Mosaic, even if they win the series today.
Young and Beautiful lose today, and then next week we find Young and Beautiful beat out the Puppies, then yes, it's 100% lights out. So Mosaic have got a lot of things riding on other teams in the hope that they can pull out results in their games. Speaking of results, Spoxes gets his first result onto Naga.
And immediately cancelled out by Dredro. Mercy with the resurrection going to bring him back into the fray. Heiko getting onto Christopher. I don't know if Mercy wants to risk resurrecting that one, because I'm pretty sure Christopher was being a little bit aggressive in his positioning. Spoxes still having that sniper duel. Finds the tag onto Naga again. I think he's trying to prove that he's the better Widowmaker, and on Dorado, he definitely has been. 32 HP, needs that healing. Wasn't a priority for Mono at that time. Now it is. They're moving the payload through. It's still contested. Gonna have a retreat from Chubbs. Tracer
slow and
still
steady
on the duel. Exactly, that's all they need to do. Fisher finding a flank. He's trying to do what Poppy Fresh has done best this game. Poppy knows the all-free trick in the book. He's gonna slap Christopher down. Resurrection to bring Marine Law back into the fray. Self-destruct, clear off the point. Infosight available for Spox. Poppy takes him out. Naga finally getting a notch into his sniper rifle this game as Marine Lord takes out Christopher on the dive. So Copenhagen Flames holding strong for now.
Yeah, Poppy went for the stick onto Chris and then killed himself in the process. So maybe not the best net result. It was, of course, a problem when you throw in pulse bombs in very close vicinity inside tightly packed spaces, is that you will struggle to get away. Or you might find with the Winston, he dives at you to make sure you go down with him.
Damage boosted Spoxes. Going for a tag. He's got the infosights. He knows what's up. Peeks too much and pulls the trigger at the right second. Naga feeling the burn through the head. And there's the Valkyrie being popped by Mono. Going to keep everyone nice and healthy. Poppy Fresh applying pressure onto the back line. Danny, he's in the middle of that Transcendence. Spoxes again. Poppy Fresh has gone down. DPS options are in disarray for Copenhagen Flames. There's Sticky. He's going to force out the Primal Rage from Chubbs. Jumps into the confined space. Marine Lord with Discord. Fisher's going to finish him off. Jumps back onto the Diva. Heiko answering with Christopher and Fisher. Someone's got to shot this guy down. Resurrection to Marine Lord. Self-destruct goes into the air. No one to be found, despite some nice picks coming out. Fisher, Spoxes, Marine Lord, Naga. They're going to be going down as Mono resurrects Christopher. Danny with the self-destruct onto Dredro. Another tag from Spoxes. Someone needs to get on this guy and nail him to the floor. Fisher taking out Heiko is going to secure phase 1 for Mosaic eSports.
Spoxes is given so much free room on the same level as everyone else. That is generally what we speak about when Pharaohs get hacked, is you go, right, this is when they're on the ground, they're very vulnerable, you can kill them now. But Spoxes was stood there just nailing shots left, right, and center. He falls down. Well, the fact that he doesn't fall down, is a massive travesty. You're looking then immediately towards Poppy, who's been so good at getting into this squishy backline and bringing down crucial members. Where was he then when he was needed most?
He's taking some jump shots on Spoxes. Very far back. Naga taking him out. Going to get res straight away, I imagine. Unless they can interrupt it. You can see they're trying to go for it. But Spoxes, he's now got 2 tanks in his face. Going to have to dance around this to get away from that. Meanwhile, they're going to let Naga find a better position to deal with this. He's going to reposition to the side. Takes out Fisher straight away. He wasn't paying attention to where Naga was going to come from there. And Poppy Fresh, he's getting onto the back line. Spoxes goes incredibly low. Naga picks him out of the air. And now the rest of the DPS and the tanks are there in the front line. Meanwhile, they're getting dived on by the own backline Mosaic eSports, they dealt with it securely, and they got themselves the high ground position.
Now we see how long they can stall out for. 3 minutes is the time they need to be able to remain here for. The first point stall went better than what I thought it would, I'll be honest. And Naga, I think, pretty much only got himself his first kill literally about 45 seconds ago. Now we're starting to see him warm up and more kills are coming across.
He's getting a damage boost as well, going to shred through these tanks and they're not paying attention. Getting an angle. We've seen Track use this exact same angle when they got the position, but they're not as entrenched as we've seen that roster be on this map, so they're going to have to back off yet again. Christopher diving in maybe a little bit too early. He's by himself, popping the Primal Rage throughout his team. It's a bit of a weird decision for him. Spoxes finds Naga in the chaos. Self-destruct goes up into the air. Dreedro is going to bring Naga back. No one gets hit by the self-destruct. Pulse Bomb, a little explosion on the Diva herself. Heiko's going to lose his mech. Danny's lost his mech as well. Naga onto Spoxes. Fish is going to dance around. He's on Marine Lord. No one's tagging him. He's getting a few dinks with the Orbs of Destruction, but it's not going to shut him down. There's Heiko. He's in the middle of a Transcendence. That's not where you want to be as an exposed Diva. Mono actually getting the kill onto Poppy Flesh, so a Battle Medic coming out to shut down the backline threat. Heiko take out Christopher. Marine Lord finds Mono, so it's a Portal Combat coming out for them. It's Fisher dancing around, still not dead. He's in the face of Naga. He's taking out Kodak. He's got a Pulse Bomb available. Gonna throw it out. He sticks someone. It's gonna be Naga going down, but he loses his life. Resurrection from Dreedro. Smart to use it on that Widowmaker. Copenhagen Flames, 1 minute 45 on the clock, still holding phase 2.
Really aggressive but smart play from Fisher as well. The way he was dancing around the Heiko there on the Diva, insane. Like literally turning him inside out and saying, where am I? Where am I? You're dying to me, but you can't see me. It felt like that way for pretty much the entire fight. Does go down in the end. His team lose the fight way before that even happens, to be fair. But if they can keep playing around Fisher and his aggression, again, getting Heiko, this is the kind of stuff they need to look out for.
Spoxes falls back to the exact same thing that Naga does. He's gone onto the Genji, but Naga, Chubbs, they found kills. Chubbs finds a third in that engagement. I talked about him not standing out. Well, he's making a name for himself in this game. Marine Lord taking down Christopher. That's going to be another denied push for Mosaic eSports.
Another questionable dive from Christopher as well, because Danny was nowhere to be seen. He's got his ultimate online, but he was playing back in defense. When you haven't got anyone joining you, Spox wasn't even there with him. He was basically 1v1ing a Zen and losing, and that is the kind of thing you cannot afford to be doing at this time. You've got 50 seconds on the clock. Every small mistake counts, as we saw in the last round.
I reckon Spoxes has enough time to get a Dragon Blade out in those 50 seconds. If he keeps landing those shurikens, he should be able to bring the difference maker into that last fight. Naga missing the grapple hook, going to go for a second attempt. He knows someone's around here, but he doesn't know quite where. And now he's got Spoxes in his face. Immediately, you see an angry monkey diving in your face. You have to hit the ground, take cover from somewhere. Self-destruct finds no one, but Fisher, he takes out Naga. Where's the resurrection from Dreedro? He's too busy dealing up the rest of the team at the moment. And Danny going in with that self-destruct. He's stuck with his mech, 200 HP, sitting in the Transcendence, trying to heal through the damage. He can't do it. He's going to have to pop that self-destruct if he wants anything to be done. Bubble Shield goes down, forces a retreat from Copenhagen Flames, but they can come straight back into the fight. Christopher takes out Marine Lord. Poppy Fresh on the Kodak. Who's going to shut down Poppy Fresh this time? Someone needs to do it. Fisher finds Naga again. Poppy Fresh on the mono. No supports from Mosaic eSports. A D-Mech onto Danny. The Tracers are running wild on both sides. When will they meet? When will they clash? Because it's only Poppy Fresh alive at the moment. He's got the Pulse Bomb. Takes out Boxes without even using it. D-Mech. Diva can't find the kill. And now here comes Fisher for the duel. Can he find it? Dancing around. Reinforcements coming in from Copenhagen Flames. Marine Lord taking out Danny. You can see some pop shots coming from Naga from the back line, and Copenhagen Flames are pushing back Mosaic eSports. The stall and the spawn difference is making everything happen for Copenhagen Flames. It's still contested. Here comes another attempt. Kodak coming in. There's Fisher still dancing around the point. Kodak going down. Naga finds Fisher. There's a Dragon Blade coming out. Immediately shut down by Chubbs. Overtime's going to whittle down. Copenhagen Flames take the series 3-1.
That final map, we spoke at the very, very start of it, saying we're looking towards the Widowmakers to be the big impact makers here, but you got to say, both Tracer players popping off. Poppy Fresh, I got to admit, pretty quiet for most of that map, but in that final fight, making all the difference. That solo stall for a good 15, 20 seconds against 3. That's the kind of magic you look for your Tracer players. And to Fisher as well, had some great fights in that game as well, but ultimately not enough to get them over the finish line. And Mosaic, sadly, find themselves no longer in contention from that top 4.
We knew Poppy Fresh would pop off. I hate using that phrase, but it's what you got to say. But the question was definitely Fisher, and for me, he's answered it. He can play that Tracer, just needs some work. It's a shame that it's come through so late into the tournament, because without Mosaic winning that map, they are now out of playoff contention. So they'll be back next week. Fight money is still valuable. They've got to go out strong, but they're not going to be going to the playoffs. Where we're going to be going, though, is over to our analyst desk to close down this series.